I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. It's hell to get this room. So I'm here. I'm using it, for God's sake, right? But at the same time, like, I'm not ready for the next episode of neoliberalism yet, because there's some stuff I haven't figured out how I'm going to integrate, and it has to be like correct and citable when I do. There's some literature that I need to catch back up on before I have a presentation for it, right? And I also didn't bring any of my equipment with me today, apparently. I was sorting it out of the house and didn't make it back into the vehicle. So that was a nightmare. Also, it turns out that I set up the wrong room. And we didn't notice this last week somehow, and I got in here even though I've been setting up for a different studio this whole time. An audio studio, which I don't need. Audio is the only thing I could do on my own, and it would be better than it would be if I did it in this room. I don't even have my lapel mics today. I have to work with just whatever my phone manages to pick up sitting on the pedestal in front of me, which might be better, it turns out. I don't know what it is that's going on with the lapel mic. They do a thing that causes weird peaking randomly. I don't know what that's about. I assume it has something to do with, I thought it was the jack on the phone, because the jack on the phone has had problems, but this isn't the phone I used. I used camera 6 for that last time, and it was all mangled. So now I have the camera that the room comes with, and my phone that I brought with me. This battery is running low. And whoever was in here before me, like, really fucked up the camera. I don't know what was going on there. Like, it specifically says, don't mess with the camera. Mess with your set and keep the camera fixed. Because the camera, like, sits on a little doodle that wriggles around because it's designed to be set sideways and locked in place, but the camera's not designed to be set that way, so they just have it sitting on top of a little dangly thing. And it's a really weird setup, and so they're like, just don't fuck with it and everything will be fine. But whoever was in here before, fuck with it. There's something on the floor over here. It doesn't look like that's where it goes. That's a problem. I don't know what that is. Uh-oh, right? Whatever it is that's on the floor over there looks expensive. Yeah, but they seem to have it set up so that they could be against the back wall and yet sitting in a chair toward the floor, so it was pointed at their face. So, like, I have the podium way in the back here. Like, I'm standing on top of the electrical outlet in the back, and I normally plug my equipment on top of the outlet next to me, way up here. So, like, that's how far back I am. And I still barely showed up in the shot, because it was, like, set here, which is where my other camera was last time. So since I don't know what the hell I'm going to do now, I suppose I'll just tell you what it is that I'm trying to do at the moment. Not that anybody's going to watch that, but maybe sometime long after I'm dead, people will be curious about what my project was, and then they'll watch this video and they'll understand. So I am trying to do a research project right now on the development of otherness from the philosophical perspective up through the epistemological perspective, and how one leads to the other as it multiplies across individuals into society, right? So, like, a person meets another person, things happen, there is another and a self, and then that becomes civilization, which should be fine. So I've been doing some sort of crash courses in remedial phenomenology, just sort of in case, just like to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, because of how rough some of that stuff is in the background, and making sure that just jumping all the way to the phenomenology that I'm using isn't ignorant, right, to do. And that has proven to be a summer-long project and more. And I've just now started to dive into Heidegger. And a dive into Heidegger is something that can take, like, months to accomplish, and I have days. Which, you know, do a crash course in Heidegger now that I'm done with Hegel is a hell of a thing to have to do. And with Hegel, it's even worse, and then Kant before that. But I was doing Kant anyway for other reasons. I'm taking the last course at Boise State that I'm going to take. It is a critical theory course that I should probably have taken 4 years ago when it first became available. But I was occupied with the Intermountain Social Research Laboratory at the time. So I'm doing it now. And supposedly I'm still doing the observation of Dungeons and Dragons, but it is very difficult to set aside time to have that set up. And I'm also like a very sick and very tired person who's going through a lot of serious problems right now. I haven't had medical insurance for the longest time, and nobody seems to really be on the same page as to why. And nobody has any idea what the hell is wrong with me, but I'm sick as hell. And I'm still trying to, do the course and do the independent study project and run LampeCreative. I run an average of 2 live play games a week. It used to be like 4. There's no way to continue that. And I had to step away from Avernus, which is one of my favorites, although as a live play group, it was not ideal. In fact, none of the stuff that I do for live play is ideal, because these are not the people that you would choose to do a live play thing with. And I think that the response from the community has shown that that is the case. But I'm going to keep doing it because I am not selecting necessarily the people who come to me. And I'm not selecting necessarily the people I am observing. Because if I did, then I would be selecting my subjects rather than having the subjects be, of their own accord, behaving in the way that they would behave, right? I would be stepping into that. It would be inobjective. It would be a problem with the observation. Do it that way. And that's sort of my primary concern, is that this is supposed to inform me as a sociologist involved in live play scenarios, right? Not trying to generate watchable content for Twitch or anything. Not that I'm against that. In fact, it would be nice if there was somebody in my community capable of it. Then that would be something they would specialize in doing, and they would probably run most of these. We might even build a kind of vanguard out of the 70 or so people who are in this in order to be a sort of premier flagship show. That probably wouldn't even have anything to fucking do with it, because left amount of items I wouldn't. Right? Like, I got into this to study this shit, not to sweat under the lights and shit. Like, why am I here? I got the studio, and by God, I'm going to use it. Anyway, so that's the live play stuff and where that's headed. I would like to go back to doing the Baby Kraken show, although it was absolutely fucking terrible. And I don't think that the people who are involved in it realize that, because in their minds, whatever they do that is most fun for them, which is being silly and making fun of their friends and being bad at the game, should somehow equate to being something that other people are willing to watch, even though they themselves don't watch the content that they help to create. Nobody watches any of these videos despite being in them. They certainly don't like, share, and subscribe despite my bullying. They say that you can get more flies with honey than with vinegar, but they don't seem to pay any attention to honey. And also, honey sucks, and so do they. Fuck you. And other things besides. See what I mean? Why am I the guy who's doing this? I am not the person I would choose. Out of the 70 people in this community, I must be near the bottom. It's the only one who's showing up, and I'm doing it. And my bowels don't work. I should probably be prepared to at least do some more information for that show. I am not prepared for that. So maybe I'm going to talk now about trying to get people to join the Nostria Discord so that they can come in and play Lamp Edition, West Marches, Dungeons & Dragons online. Why not? The more the merrier. In fact, it'd be really nice to have enough dungeon masters to do this, and somebody who gave a shit about making watchable content involved in the community. I am also trying to figure out how I'm getting people to bring together music. I have samples on the Nostria Discord, because for a while it looked like music might start to happen there, but it would have been sort of less official and kind of weirdly sidelined, and everybody just ignored it, including the musicians who were originally sharing the stuff there. I don't know what went wrong there. It seemed like we had a lot of ducks in a row, and then everybody just disappeared. So I don't know. And then there's another Discord for that, which is a little more vetted. But through the other Discords that we have, especially in Austria, we might familiarize ourselves with people who are interested in other things. And then I might try to bring back Improv Zero, now that pretty much everybody's got some kind of Zoom or Discord functionality in the whole universe because they have to work from home. That means that Improv Zero might be a little more practical, although I'm still waiting on drum samples from a guy that I interviewed 6 months ago now. Might even been a year and 6 months, but I don't think so. I think it's only been 6 months. It's hard to tell the difference. When you start getting old, the year, what difference does that make? I'm almost 40 now. But I think that, so music is also important. There was some kind of bizarre problem with people not understanding what this is. People were like, this is somebody who wants to bring people together to be able to produce content for the internet. And so what if we did it this way, which basically, without them realizing it, they said, what if we just got rid of the musicians? What if we don't need musicians in our community? Just, fuck those guys. And that was sort of the opposite of what I was trying to do. And then other people came in and tried to defend that position, like not having watched these videos, so they don't understand what it is I'm trying to set us up to do here. And you can have the best YouTube content in the world, but you don't have a community, right? If you're doing that, you don't have a community because you're alienating the people who are supposed to be part of your project. You're not working with them. They're not a part of this. The people that are watching your content should also be the people who are providing for you the things that you're using rather than getting things for free off of the internet. I don't understand why that requires explanation. Like I do live play stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, and the reason that I'm using uncopywritten art assets randomly selected from the internet is not because it's easier than putting my faith in the artists, because the artists won't make portraits. They won't do the task. And if they did, it would be because I paid them. And I don't, who am I mugging to get the money to pay these people? Like, where am I getting it from? I can't even take out loans anymore under the circumstances. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do for my master's degree. Like, I have to get into a master's program where they're going to give me a stipends or something because, I mean, like, I'm literally dying before your eyes. I'm wasting away right now, right? So I don't see myself getting a job providing labor for enough money to pay for my master's degree and keep me alive. And I can't stay where I am either because of other, even more troubling circumstances than that. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But now, anybody who has watched this is on the same page that I am. You should understand what I'm trying to accomplish here and what the various projects I'm doing now are. I should start to be able to get out the rest of the Descend into Avernus game, although I'm not sure that that's a priority. Because even though it's some of my favorite D&D content that I've done, I'm not sure, despite it being very good, that it is a good show. And I know that Baby Cracking is a terrible show, but I would like to do more Baby Cracking because of the elements in which I talk about the conflicts that we had as players. Because pretty much every episode of that show involved some kind of obvious evidence that if gamers aren't particularly bad, at least we are particularly bad and shouldn't be friends. And that was one of the smoother experiences. And Nostria is just filled with people just going to show how live play is terrible. Which is a radical juxtaposition to what people are trying to produce, which I think is important for one thing, because a real game isn't like the professionals doing the streaming that are following in the footsteps of Critical Role. Critical Role is not what most games look like. Games do not look like that. Like Matt Colville was trying to make his game look as much like a real game of Dungeons and Dragons as was possible. That there were audio effects and shit, you know. They had Tom Not Tom wear like glasses to indicate, like they had props and shit that were like well outside of the gaming table experience most people have, right? So even that was a postmodern game, right? And I feel like our games are much closer to the way that most games have a tendency to work, even though they aren't in person the way that those games all are. There's an irony in that somewhere, that the more postmodern game would be, the more real one. I think that's kind of neat. It deserves to be looked at and picked over and dealt with, but I don't see that happening. Because nobody's even going to watch this. Maybe I'll watch it someday in the future and be like, oh yeah, I was going to do that, and then I'll have some kind of side project along those lines. But Nostria needs to go out. Nostria needs to be done. I've been doing Clatter because the way I set it up, I could cut an episode of Clatter quick and easy and get out. But I couldn't find the first session. I think that one might have been lost. And I'm not sure when or how, because yes, that's true. Although I was pretty sure I turned the sound off when this was running. And that might be a setting that is not on this device. Which is annoying, because now that's in my video. Whatever. Since I didn't bring the rest of my equipment, I'm not sure what else I want to try to do. I can try and explain what else might be coming down the line. I should be able to prepare a lot of Skyrim together. I can't edit much of any of this, though. I have to set it up so that I can cut them into clips as quickly as possible and then schedule them to go up. That's all I can really do. I can't go through and edit it the way that I would like to, where I cut out the parts where nothing is happening, or get all of the sound set up properly despite having, because of the Craig bot, multiple forms of dialogue, which I should be able to do that with now. Mostly because the files are too big to transfer from device to device. And right now, how I have to do things is I have to get them somehow from the internet onto my laptop and then edit them on the laptop. Unless I'm going to use the inferior software, which admittedly is easier to use, on the desktop. But in either case, it has to go from the online storage to the device. And for a 3-hour-long game with 4 audio tracks, I mean, we're talking upwards of 20 minutes in upload and download time every single time, right? Let alone trying to edit it. And Audacity takes forever to load that many tracks together. And then everything you do with it takes like 15 minutes to catch up. And then it takes more than an hour to make that into an audio track. And you need the audio track before you can even get started on the video. Let alone having multiple audio tracks that I'm trying to move to keep in line with the video so that we aren't interrupting each other and being tremendously awful presenters. And we are offensively terrible presenters. We are the worst. I mean, I have no business doing this, and I am fucking Godzilla compared to these people. Like, I am a screaming monster of showmanship compared to the vast majority of the people that I'm doing these projects with, because they're the ones who show the fuck up, who seem to be at all interested, or who talk me into Skyrim together in the first fucking place, which I should never, ever have accepted. Oh. At least when the new patch comes out, they have agreed to pretend to be academics with me. And then that'll be hilarious, because we're gonna have the what's his name? The guy that the word cynic comes from. Is this? Whatever. I'll patch that in later. Diogenes was on it. Because Charades has to be Greek. He wants hers to be like classic Greek philosophy. And we're either going to do, and we'll have Jürgen Habermas, of course. Well, that reminds me, I already have a shirt. If I can get that done, I'll do it on Monday. I'll probably do it for my streams and whatnot this week. I'm trying to remember who Miriam was going to be. She was talking about doing Ayn Rand for a while, which would have been terrible but funny. But instead, I think she decided she wanted to go with, I suggested Judith Butler. She didn't choose Judith Butler. She wanted somebody else. But there had to be a female. There had to be a woman, right? There had to be a woman. Like a Simone de Beauvoir or something. And we're either going to do the Cynic Dude, and she'll be the werewolf. And then I'll be the Dragonborn. Maybe. In order to use the voice, because Jürgen Habermas' communication. Well, we'll have to see. But it'll be a much better show, I hope. Although I don't. I mean, at least if Miriam has a perspective, there'll be a reason for her to be so fucking irritating. And everything that Shrey does is boring anyway, so there's no point in watching her. Unless one of us is watching her punch somebody to death, which is cool and everything, but we can see that better than she can show it anyway, so why not? So there'll be more Skyrim Together, which is pretty good content just because Skyrim is neat to look at, especially from my perspective, although I've come to realize that the visualization is radically inferior because of the way that my feed works to Twitch, and then the download from Twitch for the VOD. Between point A and point C, you lose a lot of the visualization, which, I mean, I've got fucking, the mod folder is bigger than the game now. Like, that's how much shit I've got going on there, and it hardly matters because you can't see any of it anyway. And some of the best shit quit working. because the way that the lighting was supposed to happen made the collision fuck up and got rid of the floors. Which is pretty Bethesda anyway. Can only do something about that. So, what else am I producing? I'm going to do more philosophy readings, I hope, although I don't know when. Probably when I'm done catching up on this other stuff and I'm able to start doing actual philosophical work again and I start actually writing. Then I'll go through the rest of the Luckman volume and I'll just read that aloud while people in the Discord are ignorant about it, probably. I don't know how I'll do that. Maybe some of the other philosophy people will be interested, although I doubt it. And I've also been thinking about trying to set up a podcast where I talk to other INSTRL alumni about projects that they did there so that we can talk about neoliberalism in higher education from these various perspectives to these various projects and have them all talk about it. Just have like a database of that so that at least there's something there for it, assuming that they are interested in it. And I suppose I would have to, in some way, get Scarrett to sign off or agree to that. I don't really know how, because it's not like I'm presenting it to a university or something, and I'm not claiming any authority over it. I'm not even sure that the person explaining their work would be claiming authority over theirs. And if they did, does that matter? Because it's not, I'm not even monetizing any of this. I don't know. But I'd have to find a way to talk to him about it. And he hates me and wants me to be sad, so he doesn't respond to my emails. Which, to be fair, I was a huge asshole. So, rule of thumb for anybody out there that's interested in research, don't piss off the primary investigator if you can help it. Rule of thumb. So that's some advice. Anything else I'm trying to do? Music is almost impossible under my current circumstances. It's extremely difficult to do anything, and that means that I'm not practicing when I do anything either. And so there's a piece of music that I was in the middle of that I can't go back to. The Pink Floyd cover was a pipe dream, even if I could consistently practice it, because there's so much stuff that's so complicated that I'm not going to be able to do. I was never going to be able to do the saxophone solo on my own. I had no idea what I was going to do for that. I hoped to talk someone into it, but as regular viewers will know, I have no friends, so that was a ludicrous thought to begin with. So I don't know what I'm going to do with the Pink Floyd cover, but I'd like to do, because I'm doing Neoliberalism Part 2, I'm actually doing it. And it'd be a lot nicer to have the Pink Floyd cover. In fact, I'd like to do a different one for each of these, and then I'd do Dark Side of the Moon for the next one, because the lunatic is on the grass, etc., and I want to make references to that as I'm going through. And then for the third one, I might do something a little weirder, because you can get pretty fucking weird with Pink Floyd if you try. I could probably do a cover of Astronomy Domain, which would be as terrible as any of the other Pink Floyd covers, but that song is so fucking strange, nobody noticed how terrible it was. Maybe that's the way to go. Right, maybe that'll be part 3. Anyway, I've been talking pretty much non-stop this whole time. Editing this is going to be really weird. It's only 20 minutes long, though, and the output video is supposed to be 30, and presumably I'm going to cut this down. Is there anything else I am working on? All of the things that I am working on and how I'm going to do them. I'm trying to get into graduate school. And I should be leaving the state in order to do that, but there's no promise that that's the case, but I can't keep living in the conditions of it. So I don't know what to do about it, right? Like, I've got everything that I own in one place, and I've been planning to move away when I was going to graduate school in order to have enough room to live in. But not only is that possible, does that seem unlikely now, but the way I was going to get my loans doesn't seem likely to occur anymore either. So I don't know what I'm going to be able to accomplish. How do you help? Even if somebody were willing, there's nowhere to turn, and things are getting worse for everybody. Society's falling apart right now. And that's probably quite likely to get considerably worse before it gets any better. I like to try to give support of some and or any kind I can toward activism in that regard. But mostly, I'm just trying to make sure that our society is able to inform those people so that they can be effective. And I'm not in any position to do that. I'm not in any position to be a part of any research organization that would be doing it, despite being one of the only people who one, is capable, and two, gives a shit, because none of that shit has any funding. And if it did, then the funding is going to certain kinds of prima donnas who are trying to apologize for the ongoing liberal capitalist system as it fails around them. Doesn't matter how much you want to try to support Biden, he doesn't have the answers. He never did. He has the past, and you can't bring it back. Anyway, there's got to be more. There's so much more. There's a lot of random Let's Play stuff. There's no excuse for not having the game developer stuff up. I was going to try to do that tonight, but I've got a paper to write, and I'm hoping to have that paper done by Wednesday night. I'm starting now, so as soon as I get back to the house. So that'll probably be pretty engrossing. I might be able to get that up Wednesday. Sure, I bogarted my Wednesday session, which is good, because it means that I can get that stuff up on Wednesday, and Miriam might even be able to stream it anyway. But I don't know. And having other streamers will make LampeCreative considerably more plausible. We were talking about having Codeman stream Clatter games over LampeCreative, but some of the things that have happened recently have made me think maybe it's not that great an idea to have that many people have access to. Because the thing is, that means that Cody's going to have access to the email system so that he can confirm when he logs in, right? And then he has to have some responsibility for what Twitch has to say through the email system, and has to keep an eye on that. And then has to not only be able to stream and run the stream, but it means that he's probably going to have his own Streamlabs set up, unless he's just streaming it however he thinks he wants it to look, instead of there being a standard system for Nostri when it goes up, or for Clatter, or for whatever it might be that's going on. And I just feel like I want to keep that. Ian House isn't even the right way to say it. I want to be dealing with people who are going to know how and when, and be devoted to how to put it out, rather than having all of these other things that they have to deal with. Bad enough that I'm doing, right? I would prefer to pay somebody who knows how to do this shit to do it for me, but until I set up a Patreon and it's for some reason somehow beyond any imagining successful, I can't imagine that taking place, then it's just never gonna happen. Be nice if it did. So I don't know, but there should be other people streaming, and there should be other ways of getting our content out, and then there should probably even be other people editing and cutting down live plays that I'm not involved in, and putting those up so there's more content on the YouTube channel. At least as far as live play goes, and there should also be a lot more stuff for things like painting and whatnot, because people who paint and draw and do all these other things, especially if they record them, there's no reason that we shouldn't be making videos out of that. I'm putting that stuff up for live streaming sessions of drawing and things like that. But one of the things that's happening right now is that anybody who even understands how that kind of thing works is already doing it and already has their own presence. So there's no point in them coming to us, at least not right now. Like maybe if they knew musicians and were like, oh yeah, it would be great to have you do a custom backing track and maybe even some kind of theme song specifically for me and my show and stuff like that. And then they could work together and do things like that, and that would be amazing. And then there'd be a reason for them to want to work with LampeCreative or any number of similar things, right? Like access to whatever resources we have available that we can offer them. But right now, it's like anybody that would be in a position to do that doesn't already have, they either already have their own following on Twitch or YouTube because they're known in that way or are already doing that work, or they have no fucking idea about Twitch or YouTube and don't really care. Like even if they're kind of curious, like it takes time and energy and familiarity, and like I've been doing this shit since 2015, and there's a lot of shit that I'm just now finding out myself, you know? So it's not as easy as just doing it, right? It's not as easy as just winging it this whole time. You don't just come into something like that and go, oh yes, I'm streaming now. Because you won't understand all of the nuance. And it's true of anything, which is one of the reasons why you need community to begin with. And I'm hoping that we can bring this stuff together and make that happen. Anyway, that's probably everything I can think of. So I hope that this has given people some idea of where I'm going. Hopefully it's given me some idea of where I think I'm headed. I don't know when I'm going to get this edited. This is sort of a follow-up to the previous video now, I guess. I'm going to have to work even harder for the audio for this one to make sense. But at least it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of weird anomalies in this like there was in the last one. I guess at this point I'm just going to thank you for your time.